Understanding Microsoft 365 Copilot is becoming increasingly complex. When first released, it was a simple, paid license assigned to a user, and you either had access to it or you didn't. But now, with both free and pay-as-you-go options that also come under the Microsoft 365 Copilot banner, actually understanding the experience different selections will offer to different users has become somewhat complicated. So in this video, we're going to dive into this issue by walking through the end-user experience of the three main usage paradigms that exist: free, pay-as-you-go, and fully licensed. Hopefully this will help you choose the right options for your organisation. First though, a quick introduction. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I advise smaller businesses on how to get the best from AI, including Microsoft's AI technologies. Check out the links below if you're interested in learning more about me or my services. So first, let me introduce you to our testers. I'm going to be switching between three accounts, but look out for the notation on screen to keep track of which experience we're looking at. As always, I'm using demo accounts, so you're not seeing anyone's private data. Praddeep is licensed with Microsoft 365 and his tenant doesn't have pay-as-you-go turned on. The experience he represents is that of the default for anyone who hasn't specifically turned on any Microsoft 365 Copilot features. Alex is licensed with Microsoft 365, but in a tenant where pay-as-you-go experiences for Microsoft 365 Copilot have been activated. His account represents the pay-as-you-go route without a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And Megan has both a Microsoft 365 and Microsoft 365 Copilot license. This is what you could think of as the traditional Microsoft 365 Copilot path of just adding the paid license. So let's kick off by considering the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat experience. For Megan, she has the full set of options afforded by her Microsoft 365 Copilot license. When she opens Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, either in the web-based experience or in Teams, she sees the work and web option switcher that allows her to switch contexts. In the Work tab, she can use Context IQ either by typing a / or by accessing the Add Content control to add any of her Microsoft 365 content, including files, meetings, emails, and references to people. If she wants a summary of the Project Turing marketing plan, she can get this by tagging it from Context IQ and asking for that summary. Copilot will use the file as grounding for the response. But because Microsoft 365 Copilot is grounded on her graph data, she doesn't necessarily need to tag any file. In a new chat, she can just type the prompt, "Tell me about the Project Turing marketing plan," and Copilot will go out and find the right files to produce much of the same information, while also including broader results from the web, if web content is also turned on. On top of this, she can also upload files from her PC or add any file that is part of her OneDrive. She has full flexibility over any graph data she wants to include with her request. Microsoft's help content on Learn tells us that Microsoft 365 Copilot can be enabled via pay-as-you-go, and so when enabling this in your tenant, it would be reasonable to think the experience would be much the same. So let us check that out. Alex doesn't have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, but pay-as-you-go is enabled for him. When accessing Microsoft 365 Copilot chat on the web, you can see that the experience is a little different. Gone is the Work and Web tab, and just one experience presents itself. This is the Copilot chat web experience, which looks the same but works very differently. Alex also has access to Project Turing's documentation, so let me start off with "Tell me about the Project Turing marketing plan." It finds one, but this isn't the same one that Megan was working on. Apparently Microsoft has a Project Turing too, but this isn't relevant to Alex. This is because this chat isn't grounded on your graph data in the same way the work experience is, so it can only find sources out on the web. But that's okay because I can still easily attach a file to my prompt. But if I type a /, nothing happens. So instead I use the Add Content link, but no Context IQ. This takes me directly to a file upload window from my system. So when you upload a file here, what happens? It gets added to a folder in your OneDrive called Microsoft Copilot Chat Files, and if you refer to the same file 5 times, it'll create 5 different copies of it. But once a file is uploaded, it can work with it in just the same way as using Work Chat for a Microsoft 365 Copilot license user. There are some clear limitations though. For example, the ease of adding a person or an email or a meeting just doesn't exist in the web chat. These are files only and must come from your hard drive. The same experience is the case for a user in a tenant with no pay-as-you-go turned on at all. Pay-as-you-go enablement makes no difference to the core Microsoft 365 Copilot chat experience. It has been announced that OneDrive and SharePoint integration for Microsoft 365 Copilot chat users will be coming soon, but it's not clear exactly how this will work versus the Work tab chat. It is also important to note that even with a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, if you choose to use the Web tab, you end up with much the same experience. Next, let's look at some Microsoft 365 apps. If you're finding this video useful, it would be great if you'd hit the like button and leave a comment to help it get in front of more interested people. Also, if you'd like to see more like this, please do subscribe to the channel. Here we can see that Megan has opened the Project Turing marketing plan in Word. At the top of her window, she has the ability to interact with Copilot, she has contextual Copilot help in the document itself, and can open the Copilot sidecar. From here, she again has access to Context IQ to reference other Microsoft Graph data in her prompts. This Copilot experience is repeated in other enabled apps such as PowerPoint, Excel, or Loop. Alex has access to the same file, but his Word doesn't have any access to Copilot. Pay-as-you-go enablement in the tenant doesn't bring any Copilot features to the Microsoft 365 apps. This is 100% the preserve of the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. So when we're thinking about pay-as-you-go for Microsoft 365 Copilot, we've looked at two examples that don't really move the needle to any benefit for unlicensed users. So what is pay-as-you-go enablement really all about? Here we can see Praddeep's Copilot chat. Remember, he has neither a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, nor is he in a pay-as-you-go enabled environment, but he has UI on the side of the Copilot screen to get or create Copilot agents. If we click on Create Agent, the Copilot Studio Agent Builder opens, and he can create an agent. However, if we put alongside this the same Agent Builder dialog for Alex's account, remember he doesn't have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, but unlike Praddeep, his tenant has been enabled for pay-as-you-go, we can see some differences. They both have access to the same range of templates and the details and instructions area are exactly the same, but if we scroll down to knowledge, you can see the options become quite different. Alex can add knowledge from SharePoint as well as the web or specific websites, while Praddeep can only add web content. I will say though, I don't think the experience of Praddeep's side is quite right. His Agent Builder does give you the ability to add specific websites, but elsewhere this is listed as a paid feature, and if you add a specific website, the agent doesn't work correctly. I've submitted an issue report to Microsoft on this, and I think it's an error in the UI being exposed, and all the free account should see is the web search toggle. Praddeep's side also doesn't see code interpreter or image generator, which I'm again a little confused about as the same documentation says this feature doesn't require metered billing. Your mileage may vary, but the biggest difference here should be that Praddeep cannot access graph grounding. However, that doesn't entirely get to the bottom of the agent's question when it comes to the differences between these three different user types, as some of the functionality of agents doesn't come down to what features are thrown in, but the tooling you have to use them. Let me show you what I mean. Here I am in Megan's account and I've created a version of the Microsoft Idea Coach template to demo this. I can open up my agent or mention it in the work chat, and then if I type a / or click add content, I can use Context IQ in the context of this agent to grab any of my Microsoft 365 graph data to work with. But because this deep integration with my personal graph is a Microsoft 365 Copilot license feature, if I open the same idea coach for Alex, I have no ability to do the same. I can still add files, as we saw before, but all that other stuff that I can do from Context IQ is just not possible. But this issue also extends to the Microsoft 365 apps. Here in Word, I can open the Idea Coach as Megan in my Copilot sidecar. But as Alex or even Praddeep, I don't get a Copilot sidecar, so the ability to generate content and insert it into the document, as you can see Megan doing here, just doesn't exist. So yes, Pay-as-you-go gives you more options in terms of what your agents can do. Specifically from the agent builder in Copilot chat perspective, this includes adding grounding content from SharePoint. But just enabling pay-as-you-go in no way gives you a like-for-like experience of Microsoft 365 Copilot or agents to a fully licensed user. From asking if Microsoft 365 Copilot is the right product for your business, to working out how agentic AI can amplify the ways you delight your customers, there are lots of questions swirling around AI strategy and AI adoption for all businesses right now. And while the technology is important, understanding how it all fits together in a way that's relevant to your business and your people is even more so. If you need an advisor or a personal or team AI coach to start or support your journey, I offer services to help you. I work with small and medium-sized organisations that are looking to maximise the benefits of AI in a safe and responsible way. And I'd be happy to connect with you to understand your situation and outline how I can assist you to succeed with this technology. Take a look at the links down below to find out more and to get in touch. In an ideal world, Microsoft would like you to buy Microsoft 365 Copilot for all your users, but for many organisations this just isn't practical. So pay-as-you-go creates a middle ground where core aspects of the technology can be used by unlicensed users. So for example, you can roll out an agent's adoption strategy without worrying too much about cross-mingling between the tools used by licensed and unlicensed users. But the reality is that even ignoring the higher complexity side of agents you get when you dive into the full Copilot Studio, even what you build with Copilot Studio Agent Builder from Copilot Chat can get expensive on a pay-as-you-go basis. Activities like graph grounding, like pointing the agent to SharePoint data source, can consume a lot of message credits, and at between 0.8 and 1 cent per message, this can add up pretty fast. So that leads to the question of what does it look like if you co-mingle Microsoft 365 Copilot license users with rolling out agents in a non-pay-as-you-go environment? What actually happens if a fully licensed user seeks to share an agent with paid features to someone without a license? Well, here Prabdeep has had just such an agent shared with him, and he excitedly adds it to his app. But where is it? It just doesn't appear. And this behaviour is repeatable. No error, no other message, not even an ad to entice me to upgrade to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So what are our takeaways here? In my view, anywhere that Microsoft is referring to pay-as-you-go Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's a marketing message rather than a technical reality. The company has decided to call so many things Microsoft 365 Copilot, from its old Office.com portal through to the top-tier AI-enabled helper they announced 2 years ago, that while it may be true in terms of current naming conventions that you can buy a pay-as-you-go version of what Microsoft calls Microsoft 365 Copilot, you absolutely cannot buy a pay-as-you-go version of what any of my customers think of as Microsoft 365 Copilot. That said, if you understand what you're getting, then I do think the pay-as-you-go agent features you get are valuable. Agents are just tools. Reusable, AI-powered task helpers that you can tailor to the needs of your team or your wider business. And for certain profiles of worker or certain tasks, you certainly don't need a full Microsoft 365 Copilot license to get benefit from them. There are a number of adoption strategies where pay-as-you-go is an important feature, whether that approach be creating an on-ramp to AI enablement broadly, or making a purposeful determination of who will get the full Copilot and who will only get select agents based on job profile and the intended volume of use. On the other hand though, without a strategy in place, pay-as-you-go agents and too few Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses might be a costly mistake. First, you're paying for every single query on the things Microsoft 365 Copilot delivers most benefit on. However, you're missing a lot of the upside because your Copilot features aren't everywhere you're working and aren't seeing all your data. This is absolutely not a mechanism to get the full Microsoft 365 Copilot feature set for low usage scenarios, in the same way pay-as-you-go calling plans are a great way to enable Teams Phone for your entire organisation when many users don't use the phone enough to justify a more expensive, all-inclusive plan. My biggest issue with the way pay-as-you-go has been presented isn't whether or not it's a good or bad value, or even the inequity of features, but just that it's been made really confusing by sounding like it's one thing and then turning out to be something else entirely. Hopefully through making this video, I will have helped to alleviate some of this confusion for others. Let me know down in the comments your views on this. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.